Welcome everybody. This video has been a long time coming. For some time now, I've been wanting to do a real-time video of an ink sketch being made. Some of you have mentioned that you would be interested in that, so here it is. It usually takes me between 70 to 90 minutes to finish one of these drawings, and that's a long time to spend on a sketch, I know. So I am anticipating this being a long video. Given the length of the video, I will break it down into chapters so that you can more easily navigate through the video and float through the different stages as you see fit. I generally work in three major stages: the ghost in, refinement, and then the details. Now, very briefly, the ghost in stage is where I place the rough shapes as close to their correct placement as possible. Then I will do a second pass over the drawing, refining the shapes and adjusting the proportions. Then finally, the third pass over the drawing, I work the details, making my darkest marks and most prominent features. Right here is the chapter list and the timestamp for the beginning of each stage. I will show this list at the end of each stage also, just so it'll be there for you. So without any more wasted time, let's get right into the drawing. And also, if you look over here, I placed an image of the reference photo that I will be working from, just so you can have it there and you can judge me as much as you want. The very first thing is, I know I want my drawing to be from about right here. And we're going to make it fairly small, to about right here. So all I do, the first thing is I do a very rough, just getting the very rough shape of what I think this might be, and that's it. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is, or that I'm planning on doing, is going through and just finding some of these shadow shapes. I'm not going to the eyes and the nose right away. I'm trying to find the basic structure of the face. So all I'm doing is going through, marking where I think these shadows might be. Marking the page very lightly. I don't want to mark it with any bold marks right away. I'm keeping my marks very, very light. And I think maybe, I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Okay, I'm trying to find the structure of the face. If I can find the structure of the face first, everything else will be much more easily. It'd be much more easy to find all those things. Okay. Let's see. There's a shadow that comes down under his chin. Here. Through the. Now, I don't exactly know where his eyes are going to be. I mean, he's got glasses on, but I have to imagine the eye line. I think it probably goes something like this. And then, you know, the nose, and basically everything else is going to follow that line. Or that direction. Okay. Let me see if... Trying to find the placement of his mouth without doing too much here. His teeth are very prominent in there, so I don't want to try and define things too much right now. We're still feeling our way around this. So although we are working in ink here, if you can mark the page as lightly as possible, you can think of the ink being not so permanent, even though it is a permanent mark. If you mark it lightly, then all the other marks that come in later will become increasingly darker, so that your lighter marks, even if they are mistakes and out of place, they'll be less noticeable. So mark the page lightly. I think that's already... Well, we'll find out. Okay. Yes, at this point, I'm not trying to be... I never try to be perfect because I know that as a human being, I will fall short. I'll never be perfect. So I would... Little piece of advice, I would advise not ever falling into the trap of thinking that you could be perfect. We're human. We're not ever going to be perfect. So in the beginning, especially in the beginning, I'm not trying to be perfect, but I'm not even trying to be spot on accurate. I'm just trying to find the rough placement of things before I start really getting into it. The whole point is, at least for me in this beginning part, I need to cover the space that I'm trying to draw within, because the more information I can put on the page, the better I can judge the nose and the eyes, and I can judge everything in a context within other shapes. But in order to do that, I have to have shapes laid down onto the page. So I don't worry too much about getting them right away, because I'm pretty sure I won't have them correct from the very beginning. And that's okay. And it's okay to let your pen go and be loose, you know. Mark the page. If you feel like letting your pen follow around and make some marks, go ahead and do it, you know. Just keep them light in the very beginning. All of these little marks that we're doing right now, they will add energy to the drawing once it's finished. So let me see. We're still looking for shapes here. I'm trying to find the shape of his cheek. Right in here. Okay. No, not okay. Hold on. Hold on. Not okay, not okay. I think his glasses make a little bit sharper angle down this way. And then kind of go on up like this. Okay. Now, okay. This will officially be the end of our ghost in stage. Very simple, very rough, but as I'm looking at it, I can see a washed out version of the drawing that I want to create. So this is just enough. There's just enough information drawn onto the page that I can start judging some of these shapes a little bit more. I can start to see if the nose is too high up or too wide or too short, or the mouth is too far this way or that way, and if the whole thing needs to be shifted this way or so on. I can see all these things in a much clearer way right now because I have basically everything roughed in. So now this is the beginning of stage 2, where I go through and I refine these shapes just a little bit more. My pen marks start to get a little bit darker, and I start to adjust the shapes and the proportions a little bit. So I'm gonna start, I always start right here at the bridge of the nose. I don't know why, but I find that it just anchors the whole piece. If I start here and then just sort of radiate out from it, it just seems to work. So I'm gonna start right in here. Making darker, slightly darker marks. I'm still not committing to the placement of things just yet. I'm still trying to find them. So I see a shadow on the backside of his nostril goes up this way. It goes up here. So already I'm starting to notice that the nose was a little bit too scrunched up this way, and that's okay. Actually, it was way off. I think it's more like this. Nostril kind of goes around here. Yeah, that looks starting to look better. Okay. Don't get cocky though. Which means his mustache is, looks like it was kind of in the right place. It's okay. Now at this point, I'm still not being detailed. I'm trying to break the habit of thinking in details. I love thinking in details. I know a lot of people do. But at this point, I have to remind myself to not worry about details. We're just finding the proper placement of these major shapes. I think, let me see here. Okay. This is a very important shadow because it defines, or helps to define, the place where his cheek folds up into his eyes, which is hard to find because his eyes are obscured by his glasses. So just yet. Okay. All right. So far, this is looking okay. Starting to pull it together. Let's go down here and find the shadow on the underside of his upper lip. Goes kind of like this, and then this goes down here. I see it's not totally right, but like I said before, we're slowly finding our way. I think the teeth, I think should go more like this. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself and do too much right away, so I'm going to keep the shape of there's a lot of details going on inside of his mouth. The details of his tongue and his teeth, they're all shown together. So there's a lot going on, and I don't want to commit to the details of those shapes right now. I just want to find the structural shapes. Essentially means the larger shapes. So I think he's got his mouth very wide open. I think I underestimated how wide he has his mouth. So this is that little soul patch he's got underneath his lip, right there on his chin. Right. So I think. Mouth basically connects straight down. Okay. I think the shape is off. Ooh. Shape of that bottom mouth. Okay, we'll figure that out. Okay. We're gonna move down and try and find the shapes that define this part of his jaw, right in here. Now I'm looking at this, and obviously I really think that bottom part of his mouth is misplaced. But as hopefully I'll be able to move past that, and hopefully we won't notice it that much if I can find the proper shapes and proportions of everything as we move on through the different stages. This hopefully will not really be noticed that much because I'm just going to draw right over it with darker marks. So let me see if there's anything else that looks out of place. Now, I know that's out of place, so I will be very conscious of that as I move down. I think from there up, it looks okay. It's okay enough that I can start moving forward. Okay. Although I'm not very happy with this right now. Let's do some measuring. Well, the measurement shows that it's pretty close. So it's got to be the shape that's off. Because, man, it looks weird. It definitely looks weird. But, okay. So this is basically the end of the second stage. I've gone through and I have refined some of these shapes a little bit more. I've found a better placement for the nose and the nostrils, and I'm pretty confident that the upper half of his face is at least somewhat correct. I'm also pretty confident that the bottom part of his mouth is incorrect. So I will definitely be working on that as I go. But I think I've refined the shapes enough that I can start finding some details here in the nose and the eyes. And once I get that done, I can start to spread it out. And once I define the sunglasses and the nose correctly, then the shape next to it will be more easily defined than the shape next to that, and so on and so on. So I should be able to find the proper proportion and shape of this trouble area right here. Now, hopefully. We'll see. Okay, so starting of the third stage is our details. I'm going to go in, start with the nose, and work out from there. And we're going to refine this nose just a little bit more. This is when the drawing starts to come alive a little bit. It starts to look like what we're aiming for. So I know my marks are getting darker. See that the shadow on his nostril curves around and underneath. It goes up this way, curves around. That part of his nose. Goes up like that. Still pretty dark in that shadow. Let's darken it in a little bit. See, let's get that nostril. Before we do the nostril, let's find out where it goes. It goes a little bit more down like that. Okay. One of the difficult things about drawing someone's, you call this a portrait, I guess, someone's portrait is really figuring out how to simplify things, what needs to be there and what doesn't. Because the human face is very complicated. If you tried to put everything in there, you would just really make it difficult for yourself. Okay, that's close. We'll refine it more as we go on. It's good enough for now. This is a new skill for me that I definitely have not mastered, is talking and drawing at the same time. Trying to explain what I'm thinking and doing while doing it. It's not easy for me. So I hope this comes off okay. Now I'm going to go in and shape up the bottom side of his mustache a little bit. Get it a little bit closer to what we see. think that goes down too far. Okay. No, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. Let's go over here. Now, from time to time, I do use it's a pen, it's ink, so every mark I make is a line. But I'm trying my best to not think in linear terms. I'm trying to use these lines in blocks of shadow. So I'm trying my best to think in terms of light and shadow, not so much in using the lines to define the outline of a shape, but using a mass of lines together to indicate a mass of shadow, which is much closer to the way that we see things in real life. We see things in three-dimensional terms. We see light and shadow. We don't really see the outline of objects. We see the light and shadow on these objects. Okay. Trying my best to not see this crease going down from his cheek here. I'm trying my best not to see that as a solid line. I'm trying to see that as a very small little piece of shadow. Okay, I think maybe if I got his upper teeth in there, it would help me to judge the rest of his mouth much better. Okay, so let's do that. His teeth. What are his teeth doing? And they're basically straight like that. Okay. Teeth are one of the really difficult things to depict on a person and have them look right. Because if you go in there and if you draw each individual tooth, they're going to look almost cartoonish. So one thing that I've noticed that really helps me when drawing teeth is just to indicate the darker areas above the tooth as they curve over and over like this, and just define that space, and then just let the shape of the bottom part define it. If you start drawing the individual teeth like this, they're gonna almost, it's gonna look very strange. Teeth work out so much better if you just indicate their contour and nothing more. Okay, that's much better. I think they're going to come down like this. Okay. Okay. So yeah, okay, that's why it looks kind of funny. I think oh yeah, needs to come down much further, like in here. There we go. That's why one of the reasons it didn't look right. I had the shape of that mouth out of place. Now that I got those teeth in there, I can see the edge of his mouth really should go all the way out here. Okay. Okay. Now it makes a little bit more sense. Okay. Well, after looking at that now, I'm pretty confident in that upper part of his lips and mouth. So let's go ahead and start defining them just a little bit more. And although I did say this was the detailing phase, I'm still kind of in a halfway point. I'm halfway between refining the shapes, because if you see, I'm still refining things. I'm still moving things around and changing their shape and finding their proper placement. That's a constant, you know. Whether I call it a particular stage of the drawing or not, it's a constant. I'm always changing and moving and switching things around and trying to find the best place for everything. And I'll do that until the very end. So I'm kind of mixing, I'm doing details in certain places, but I'm also very much still looking for the shapes, the placement of shapes. Still going to treat that mustache as a solid shape. Okay. Talk to me, Stevie. Talk to me. What am I doing wrong? Huh? Help me out. Help me out. Okay. I'm fairly happy with those upper teeth. So if I'm confident that they're pretty close in the right spot, then they can help me to define the area around them. There's a lot going on inside of his mouth, so in the name of simplifying it, I'm just gonna make it much more simple. Okay, we have shape of his teeth going up. Okay. I can't even tell if that's his tongue or his teeth. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's all one shape to us. That's all we care about. Treating it like a shape. All right, let's see. So we have, gonna follow this shadow down here, and around. Okay. And we start to find some of the lighter shadows on the upper side of his lower lip. Pretty good, I think. I apologize if I'm not talking enough, explaining what I'm doing. I'm actually trying to focus on making this look right. There's really not much going on beyond what I've already mentioned. I'm just doing a lot of the same thing. I'm just refining and refining and refining these shapes. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at the shadows and the way how each particular shape relates to all the other shapes around it. Constantly thinking about shape and form. I start the drawing thinking about shape and form, and I will end it thinking about shape and form. No matter what stage I say that I'm doing, it ultimately doesn't matter. The particular stages that I mentioned they're just the process of working through it, that's all. But the main focus is always shape and form. So whether I'm doing details, I'm still thinking about following the shape and the form. Whether I'm blocking the whole thing in, I'm still thinking about shape and form. I start off thinking about it and I end thinking about it. Okay. I think this is slowly starting to come together. Okay, we've been drawing for about 35 minutes now. And I think we're getting close enough that we can start making darker marks and being more bold with what we're doing. So although I did consider this to be part of the detail stage, it's not until I get a reasonably complete version of the drawing. So now the nose and the mouth is pretty darn close. It's close enough that I can't see anything that I would adjust. So this is where I start going in and really start making darker marks, because I want to. This is what really brings the drawing together. And this is also the part where we can start being, or I choose to be a little bit more artistic with what I do. I don't just follow the reference. This is the point where I start being a little bit more creative. I start looking for places that I can lose edges, because lost edges are a very powerful tool when making a drawing or a painting. If everything is a solid line and a solid form, I don't know, it has a tendency to be monotonous. So to break that up, lost edges really can add an elegance to your drawings if you're very conscious about looking for places to lose those edges. And I'll try to find a good example of that. Like right up here with the top part of his sunglasses. If I were to follow the outline, I would draw a solid line up and then up for his hat. We don't need that. I'm looking for areas that I can break that up, the monotony of solid lines. And I think I'm going to lose that edge as it goes off the corner of his glasses. Find the edge, the shape of his forehead. Okay. He's got a lot of interesting stuff going on in his hat. I like it, but I'm not going to concern myself too much with with depicting all the intricate details of his hat. If I had more time and if I were doing a more refined drawing, then maybe. I want to figure out a way that I can just indicate that hat and then call it a day. Just enough that we can understand what it is. Because the main focus of this is his face and his expression. The hat, it's interesting, but I don't want to spend too much time on the hat and take away from what I think the drawing, at least what the drawing is for me, what it's about. So even though his glasses and his hat are very solid shapes, I'm looking for places where I can eliminate them as much as I can and still have them indicate what they are. Because from time to time, I like to think of myself as an artist and not a copy machine. So I try to, at some point in the drawing, I try to give an interpretation of, I've been looking at the reference the whole time. I try to give my interpretation of that reference instead of trying to just mimic it. So I would say if you think similarly to the way that I do, allow yourself an opportunity at some point in the drawing to get artistic with it. Break away from the reference. You know, you can take the reference and put it away at some point, and then just draw what you see in your head. If you have enough information put down on the page, then you should be able to make your own path. If you have a good enough head start, if you found your proportions properly and depicted them accurately, then at some point, once you break away from that, that structure will still be there. Good old Sharpie. Love these Sharpies. So my eyes are still bouncing back and forth to the reference, but I'm spending much more time looking at my drawing than I am at the reference. So I'm still going back and forth just to make sure that I'm not going outside of the actual forms, but I'm still letting myself be a little bit more creative now. And this is really the point of, there's two main points that I try to highlight when I go into the detailing phase. One, I try to just really accurately feel my way around each form, and I really try to bring the drawing to life. I really try to find those details that accurately depict the smaller things that I've been ignoring up until this point. And I start to look for ways that I can express myself within those forms a little bit more artistically. So that's why sometimes I will leave marks just like this. They don't really indicate any form or any shape or shadow or anything like that, but they indicate me as an individual. They show that I am a human being, not just reproducing an image. This is me going outside of that reproduction and creating. Even though I am using a reference that I'm following, I'm still trying to create at the same time. Which, in my opinion, is why we are artists. There's a difference in just taking a photograph and documenting something and then using a form of artistry to express yourself. Now, some people can express themselves through photography. That's something that I don't understand how that's possible. But some people can do it really well. Not me, I'm not a photographer. But the nature of photography is to record and document. How some of these photographers can actually express themselves through a medium that just documents, it's beyond me. It blows my mind that some photographers are able to do photography on that level. But since I can't, my artistic form is drawing and painting. I use photography and photographs differently. I use them as a reference point to get me started, to allow me to create what I want to create. So for me, I'm not interested in essentially copying these forms. I do want the forms to be accurate, but most importantly, I want the drawing that I see in my head. I want to depict that and show people that. If I just copied the photograph, if there was no difference in my drawing and the photograph, what would be the point in me showing that to people? you should be able to look at this drawing and see something that only I could do. And that's the same thing when you create your drawings. You know, your drawings should look like they came from you, not from anyone else. Someone should be able to look at your drawings and say, oh yes, that was done by, you know, so-and-so, hands down. You know, that's what's going to set you apart, and that's what makes us special as artists. It's not always our ability, but it's our individuality. Of course, it definitely helps to have a good amount of skill and training, because it's that skill and training and abilities that you have that's going to allow you to create whatever it is that you want to create on the level that you want to create it. But how realistic you draw or paint, how accurate your abilities are, how well you can render something, that's just a little factor. You know, it shouldn't be the main focus of everything that you do. You know, I can't tell you what your main focus should be. You know, that's up for you to decide. But in my opinion, the main focus of true artistry should be to express whatever it is that you want to express, and do it well, and do it in such a way that you can actually convey that to an audience. I'll tell you, it definitely helps to practice. That's why I'm such a large advocate of doing sketchbook drawings. Because they really do, the more skills and the more abilities that you have, and the sharper those skills and abilities are, the more accurately you can convey your vision to others. It might not be your thing to draw and paint so realistically, but would be definitely good to have that ability, just in case one day you decided to do it. Because if you don't have those abilities, you can forget it. So I would definitely say keep practicing, develop your skills the most you possibly can, but don't let it rule your artistic life. You know, how good you are at something really shouldn't be the main focus. You know, of course your focus should be whatever you want your focus to be, but I say your drawing ability is just a tool. It's just a tool. And what really matters is what you do with it. Okay, I need to focus here. What am I missing? Focusing too much on the talking, I am losing. You guys got me talking on something. Now I'm starting to lose what I was doing here. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Stevie starting to look a little bit like Stevie. I like that. Well, it's a young Stevie. Okay, well, we've been drawing for about 50 minutes now. So this video might actually end up being shorter than I thought. This one came together pretty quick. It's not done yet. I'm going to tinker around with it. I'm gonna add some stuff, take away some stuff. I'm not gonna take away stuff. It's ink, you can't take it away. But I'm gonna refine it a little bit more in certain spots, and I'm going to try and pull this together. And hopefully at this point, if you've been watching the video all the way through, or at least if you've been jumping from chapter to chapter, but been paying attention, you should see that all of the marks that I started with in the very, very beginning stages where I was marking it so lightly, they've basically become trivial. You know, they're in there, they help me to build the structure, but if you look in here, there's a lot of scratching going on. But in contrast to all the darker marks that I've made, they go relatively unnoticed. So that's why I think that sketching in ink, you have a lot more freedom with ink than a lot of people might realize. You know, when people hear that I sketch in ink sometimes, or when they hear that anyone sketches in ink, they look at the factor that you can't erase as a handicap. And they say, oh, well, it must be difficult doing it in pen and ink because you can't erase. And it's like, yeah, but it's not as impossible as you might think, because you can still mark the page lightly. You can coast into the drawing as you go. You don't have to make dark permanent marks from the very beginning. So definitely start slow, build your forms, mark the page lightly, and then save your darker marks for last. And those darker marks will show up and pop off the page, while the lighter ones that you did in the very beginning basically fade back into the background because you really don't notice them, or at least not as much. Okay, I can start adding some of the details that I was afraid to do earlier, because I wasn't sure they were in the right place. But now, this little shadow area, right here in this cheek, very easy for me to find its placement now because everything else is in place. Okay. Now we can start adding some of these crinkles coming down off of his cheek onto his cheekbone. Right. And I think I'm gonna make this shadow very prominent. It's dark, it's a strong black shadow just going through everything. Okay, let me see. Now I was talking earlier about finding lost edges, and now I just made a very strong, solid edge going all the way down, but that's okay. We get to pick and choose what we do. We can even add some things going down like this. Call that some artistic flair. And how many pieces of flair you put in your drawing is totally up to you. You can do the minimal amount, can do more. Okay. It's very dark. Let's see. What am I missing here? Ooh, wait a minute. Oh, no wonder. Okay. Okay, let me see. And also something that I like to do is, in certain places, put in some very strong cross-hatching. Simply because one cross-hatching can indicate form, but it is a drawing. You know, I've never tried to make this look like smooth, like a pencil. So, given the nature of the pen marks, sometimes I just like to go in there with the pen and just make some stronger marks because, hey, it's a drawing. I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's a drawing. I'm letting the marks stand for themselves. Let the drawing be a drawing. The interesting thing is that if your proportions are correct and the placement of those things are correct, you can basically be as loose and as abstract and as impressionistic as you want to be. As long as everything's in the right spot, it'll still look just fine. And I think we're getting very close to the end of this. Yeah, I'm looking at it and I can't really see anything else that I'd like to do. Maybe just add some fuzzies right here where his beard is. Okay, well, there it is. I really hope this video was helpful in some way. And if any of you like this longer video format, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to make more of these, perhaps branching out into charcoal drawing and painting. I don't want my channel to be just about ink drawings, so I would like to branch out and do some more other types of videos. And for those of you that made it to the end, thank you very much. You are a special kind of animal, and I love you for it. Keep drawing, keep practicing, please have fun with it, and I really hope to see you next time.